Welcome to Automation Experts. I'm your host, Mark Fender, former submarine officer turned process controls engineer. In this podcast series, we're interviewing experts from all over the nation in industrial process controls and automation. I'm excited to share with you the history of where we came from and where we're going next. Hello and welcome to Automation Experts. We're exploring the untold stories of process automation and industrial controls. I'm joined here today by my special guest, Jean Berthold. Jean, as a way of getting started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yes, I'm Jean Berthold. I work currently with Draeger Safety, and my position is a staff applications engineer. I work to design fire and gas systems, process safety systems for all types of end users, from the oil and gas industry, pharma, food and beverage, all the way to the newest clean energy transition systems for hydrogen production and battery EV applications.
That's awesome. And Jean, how long have you been in the industry for?
That's a good question. I would say, depending upon what part of the industry we mean, I've actually been working for over 40 years in the industry, starting out as a quality control chemist back in the pharmaceutical industry at Bristol Myers. And then I moved to food and beverage at Miller Brewing Company as a quality control chemist as well. But I got the bug to do sales when a young lady asked me, "Why are you stuck inside this building? Your personality lends itself to being out with customers. So why don't I teach you how to do that and come work with us?" So I've been doing a lot from many years ago.
Take me back 40 years ago. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump, yeah. I know. What was going through your mind, or what were the options available to you and that made you say, you know what, no, the process chemist, that's kind of where I want to go. What were you thinking at the time?
Originally, my thought was really that I really had an interest in the sciences, all of them. I was in the biochemistry, ecology, all of the things that were very trendy back in the 70s. From the perspective of the industry, it was all about the governing factors. The EPA was just beginning to talk about things with pollution and things of that nature, and how it would affect the biological, ecological issues of the day. So I thought, I'd really like to do that. And then, of course, the idea of pharmaceuticals came in, where chemotherapy was just beginning. The very first cisplatin drugs were being developed at Bristol Myers. So that was interesting. I wanted to do something that mattered. I wanted to do something. It didn't really matter exactly where. But at the time I was young, right? We were young, and we just wanted to make an impact. That's really why.
Yeah. Rather than just being okay with showing up for work every day, you wanted to do something where you could look at it and say, yeah, I'm doing something that affects people's lives on a daily basis.
I mean, as opposed to when you look at the brewing industry, for example, and you have a lot of folks who are just standing at a table looking at labels or that's a job that people do every day. They go, they get paid, they go home. That wasn't me. So I needed to do something that was truly impactful.
Yeah. So moving forward in your career, you eventually came to work more on the safety side, around gas safety. Can you tell a story from that time period? Everybody that works in the industry has a time where they walked into a plant, or they walked in to meet a customer, and the craziest things happen. Can you elaborate, or do you have any stories from that?
I know the exact moment it happened. As I said, I went into selling instrumentation because that was really what I was doing in the lab. I was working on instruments. I had to go to a location which is really a governmental location. It was experimental. It was out in the very farthest, I would say it's very out in the wilderness, and you have to go through a lot of specific security clearances in order to get through. By the time I got through 3 different security clearances and got to the end of this particular location, I was going to meet the head of the chemistry department and the assessment of this particular chemical laboratory. And all of a sudden, he yelled out to the gentleman on the other side of the room, "Hey, Charlie, we have to go in the lab.
Get out!
Could you get her a gas mask?" And I thought, I really don't need to go in there. I don't even know how to use one. I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, there's something I need to work on. This is not right.
Yeah.
I came to a facility that is truly dangerous, but no one told me how I should be prepared. What should I do? Is there any training? What is this? I didn't even really know what was in the lab.
Yeah.
And how was I going to be protected? I know the exact moment. And I went back and I actually started to research what else could I do.
From that time, at the lab, was everybody okay? Like what happened?
Yeah. And actually they did teach me how to use it, and they went ahead and did the fit, exercise. And we did go in, and I was able to help them decide what it was that they needed. We went through a whole process of identifying the particular chemicals in the lab, which was a great process, right?
Yeah.
And, you always have to get to a point where you win with the customer. And so there you go. We did what we had to do. We got the job done. I still felt really uncomfortable with the process ahead.
Yeah.
Didn't like that at all. So yeah, I really thought about it afterwards and said that for some reason this process doesn't work for me. I'm not comfortable with it. There must be a better way.
Gina, I know in the industrial controls and automation industry, there is a stigma behind salespeople sometimes, right? That you're thinking of, well, when I walk on a used car lot, this person is going to push me in this direction, and it's not where I'm going to go. What do you say to those people, or what if I'm put yourself in a customer's shoes, somebody that's trying to get a job done. What do you say to them that
Okay, that's a loaded question.
It absolutely is a loaded question.
Because when you have a business card and it says sales, sales representative or sales support or sales anything, that's the first thought that comes into the customer's mind. He's going to try to sell me something. And I'm going to say to you, normally I wouldn't breach the subject, but I think it's appropriate. It's also a unique circumstance to be in this industry and be female. Because that's the other thing, is that it's a challenge to be accepted into the industry in the first place. So I've always advised others, and I learned that if in my first 30 seconds, I have to prove that I have the capability that is technical.
Yeah.
I can't just be a person who comes in and pops product knowledge on the table. I have to just do it without paperwork. I have to do it without being aligned to a particular company. I have to be very technical right up front, that there's credibility, that there is a value to my being there as an expert. No matter what, from the start, from 30 years ago, 35 years ago, to be able to be prepared. And I used to do that. It's kind of a silly thing to say, but I used to do it in the car. Before I would get out every single appointment, I would make sure I knew every single thing about that appointment, every single thing about what that customer might ask me, and everything about our technology. So that's really how you have to do it.
Yeah, and being an expert isn't something that you achieve. It's something that's made daily. Every
day, all the time. And of course, there's also the persona of an expert. It's not assertive, it's not strong, but I am a strong-willed and assertive person, and anybody who knows me knows that about me. So I have to do what's important, and that is to mirror and approach people properly, because there are some customers who don't take well to being told what to do, because they are their experts. They are the experts in their companies. So you have to work with them on that. This is not just expertise on a technical subject. This is expertise in working with people. on a constant basis,
Right.
constantly thinking, is this the right thing to say? Will this person, respond well? So expertise is not just technical. It's working with people all the time, constantly, and recognizing what they need. And for me, it's been a journey of searching for material that teaches me those things. I know years ago, I had a national sales manager who wanted to travel with me because he wanted to understand why I was being so successful. And he got in the car, and I had forgotten to take, okay, already, how long ago was this, the cassette tape out of the machine. And the cassette tape started running. And it was literally a self-help tape about personalities and blah, blah, blah. And I quickly popped it out. And he laughed. He said, oh my gosh, I had no idea that you would be looking. And I said, no. If you're not learning every single day, if you're not reminding yourself of the most important things of the day, you might as well stay home.
Yeah, and it falls off quickly. From 40 years have gone by. You're still here. Why are you still here, Jean? Well,
I just told you, I still keep learning.
Yeah.
There's no way things stay stagnant in our industry, especially in safety. Every time there is a technology improvement in the industry, there is a safety requirement that needs changing. And for me, it's become not only a technology in the industry, but the technology that we use changes more and more and more. And when those two technologies change, it's required that not only do I change, but our industry that governs safety must change. So as we become more knowledgeable, we have to participate in what you would consider to be the regulatory community. So there is the regulatory codes, and there is the standards, and many of the engineers who design have been trained in this. But today, especially today, why do I say right now? Right now, it's amazing. It is so fast and furious with the energy transition that the regulatory codes and standards are changing on a quarterly basis, a monthly basis, from all of the hydrogen, ammonia, carbon capture, battery EV, battery storage. All of these things are changing all the time. To be able to speak with engineers, to be able to talk about the designs, to create designs, and to implement new systems, we must be able to know them. We must be able to advise properly. And we must be able to keep updating those codes and standards. So if I'm sitting doing nothing and just keeping designing the same way I've done for 10 years or 5 years, it's not worth my time. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, because nothing's changed.
Why would I keep doing that? I can go retire in Costa Rica.
So you mentioned a lot of big topics there. Like battery, technology, carbon capture. Can you talk a little more on hydrogen? What is the future of hydrogen in the United States? Right, there's a lot of diverging opinions on where it's going. There's obviously some naysayers in the crowd on hydrogen. So can you talk about where you think we're headed in the United States with hydrogen?
Okay.
I know, yeah, and I understand. It's
about a loaded question. So what I'm going to say about this, from my perspective as a fire and gas safety advisor and a person who is involved in the regulatory codes, what I will say about it is it's moving, and it's going to go there. Yeah. And now the timing of that approach has a lot to do with our community acceptance. This is number one importance, that we educate the community, educate the people who are making decisions about the hydrogen.
Yeah.
And the fear of hydrogen is the driving negative. We have a lot of technology and a lot of good things that we can do, but the thing that stalls the process is fear.
Yeah.
So I believe that the number one thing that can drive us forward in it is to address those fears. So what I'm doing to help that is that I'm spending a great deal of time out on the circuit to try to help people. What I said about hydrogen codes and standards and the safety standards changing to improve safety, to teach local fire marshals, to teach owners to teach engineering firms that here are the new ways to do this. Here are the safer or more appropriate ways to look at these systems. Working with the end users, working with manufacturers of electrolyzers, of fuel cells, these types of approaches, so that when it comes down to permitting construction, that the people in the civic areas, the state approvers, if you will, are educated enough to say, not in my neighborhood, but rather, okay, as long as you do this, this, and this, I will approve it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you have to have buy-in from the public, and there has to be education for that to happen.
That's my role. I think that's my role.
Yeah.
I believe it's going to go forward. So the answer to your question, I believe it will go.
Yeah.
In order to make the goals, we must take those proper steps to get there.
Yeah. We have to have the education piece. To kind of change the subject a little bit, but imagine you're an engineer and you're just getting into the industry, right? You're Jean from 40 years ago, and you're starting, maybe you're at a manufacturing plant, maybe you're at a specifying engineer. What do you say to those people in terms of, how do they, what's the advice you give to the person who's just starting in their career in this industry and space?
No one does this alone. That's so important when we talk about design and when we talk about system implementation, from the start to the finish. Even from all the way, we talk about risk assessment, okay, and where we go in safety. I can't do anything alone. I don't do anything alone. It takes a team. It takes a village to do absolutely every step. So even when you're young, and especially when I was young, I reached out every single time. This takes all disciplines to get to a good response, to get to the right answer.
Right.
And even when you get to what you think is a right answer, ask again. And I don't mean to say that you stall the process. That's not my point. My point is that you bring all the disciplines together.
Yeah.
Then no matter what your discipline is, mechanical, electrical, civic, whatever it is, everyone has input to that decision. That's the advice I would give them.
Right. Is it, from a humility standpoint, it's okay to say,
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with that discipline, and I need some help over there.
Always. I mean, to step into my history and say, we started a company from scratch on the dining room table, me and another gentleman, and we're gonna raise capital. We're gonna start a company up. We've never been an operations people. You don't get to do that sort of thing without saying, I need help, and literally reaching out to people who have done it before. So it's important that we connect the young people with the people who are doing it now, have done it, are really creating the future. And these types of organizations, the regulatory code committees, people like that, we have to bring both the young engineers and the experienced engineers together. So they have people to reach out to, not only in their own company, because that becomes a bias circle, if you will.
Right.
It has to come outside that so that they have people to come to, experts outside their own company who they can get input from.
Yes. Yeah. And not sit in your own little box and pretend that, hey, we've been doing this for a while. We know what's out there.
Right. Or here's the process I've been given. This is the way I'm going to take it because this is what I've been told to do. That's great, and you can follow those processes, but don't forget to get some input because there may be something you can say or do that augments that process to a better result, to a better endpoint. And there are many, many, many ways to do that. The ISA group helps, Society for Particular Engineering Groups, AICHE, for example, the American Institute of Chemical Engineering, the Center for Hydrogen Safety. There are so many places to go and get help. Ask, and you shall receive.
Well,
okay?
I'm going to take you up on it, Jean. If any of our guests want to learn more about some of the things that you talked about today, how can they get in touch with you, or what are some ways that they could they could talk to you?
Jean Berthold on LinkedIn. By all means, that's probably the easiest way.
Okay.
And they can contact me at Draeger, of course. Jean.Berthold, Berthold, @Draeger.com.
Awesome.
Or call you.
Or yeah, maybe they could call me.
I'm just kidding. Definitely LinkedIn is probably the easiest way. You can type, my first name is Jean.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Jean. It was a pleasure interviewing you, and I'm just really excited about the future and kind of where the state of industrial controls is going in the United States. Is there anything that you wanted to mention or make a plug for? Now is your chance.
Oh, that's really kind of you. So I did mention that I work with Draeger, and in our Houston office, we have a very large group at our system center, and we are all degreed engineers, experienced engineers. We do design systems, and we kind of like to use the phrase #Draeger does more. So many people think of Draeger as just gas detectors or Draeger tubes, and what I'd like to tell you is we do full fire and gas and process safety systems, so please don't hesitate to contact Draeger for this type of effort. We do it all the time. So
Awesome.
Thanks very much for asking, and yes, #Draeger does more.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jean. And thank you all to our listeners today. You can catch us again on our next episode here at Automation Experts. Thanks for listening to this episode of Automation Experts. Automation Experts is sponsored by Neil Systems, your process controls and industrial automation provider in Northeastern United States. Learn more at neilsystems.com.